Why are we funding American universities to do climate change research?
Every single day in Canada here and in the world, we've got so much going on. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. In today's top stories, we've got the Liberals caught trying to play both sides here in a global conflict that's going on. Israel is sending some people on the ground to go say hi to their local neighbors. In retaliation, Iran has sent some sparklers, some fireworks down into their country. And Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are trying to play both sides here. We've also got Justin Trudeau's ministers, multiple of them saying ridiculous things. We also got some updates here from the campaign trail of the BC election coming soon. So let's jump into it. We're going to start off here. Recent Nanos poll says 42% for the Conservatives. But what's this? What's this orange color in second place? So yeah, Trudeau and the Liberals have fallen to third place now. It's finally happened. It says here, first time since 2015. We knew this was coming. The slide is happening. Next up, we've got one back and forth with Pierre Poilievre and Melanie Joly, and then I'll show you some updates here of what's going on with the sparklers.
Almost a year ago today, Tehran-backed terrorists unleashed the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Ever since, they've continued to push this genocidal aim. Today, hundreds of rockets came from Tehran towards Israel, forcing millions into shelter. 2 terrorist attacks carried out. This Prime Minister has talked out of both sides of his mouth, saying one thing to one group, the opposite to another. Will the Prime Minister state clearly that Israel has the right to defend itself by defeating Hezbollah, Hamas, the IRGC, and all the other terrorists?
Mr. Speaker, we all seen the attacks by Iran against Israel today, and of course we condemn them unequivocally. These attacks from Iran will only serve to further escalate the region, and therefore that is why I've been in contact with my Israeli counterpart this morning, and I've been in contact with many G7 foreign ministers as well as Arab countries' foreign ministers. This is a very dangerous time for the Middle East, and we need to make sure that this war stops.
She's so unimpressive. The way she talks, her understanding of what the whole situation is. I feel like if you looked up in her head, you'd see a whole lot of dun 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 dun. After that watered down response by Melanie Joly, there's no substance there whatsoever. We've got this posted by Melissa Landsman. It shows 16 minutes apart. 2 different Liberals answering 2 different things.
Position that Israel should not respond to Iran. You've called for a ceasefire vis-a-vis Hezbollah, but this attack from Iran, is Canada asking Israel not to respond in kind?
We need to make sure that there's no escalation.
I pray for a world where Israel can defend itself from Iranian and Hezbollah missiles without being condemned, and one where it can live securely in peace with its neighbors.
They like to play both sides. Just to set this up so you guys know what we're talking about here, I'm going to play one brief clip. This is in Israel.
Okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here. They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
That's nuts. And look how fast these things fly. Now, to show what the impact of these are, there's a reporter here at one of those sites.
This is the impact site for one of those Iranian ballistic missiles. And if you see the size of this crater, that's about 30 feet deep and maybe 50 feet wide. You can see all the debris around here. And to give you a sense of the targets for these strikes, that white building back there, about 1,500 feet behind me, is the headquarters of the spy agency, the Mossad.
Moving back over to Canadian news, we've got this here. Liberal MP Richie Valdez goes on a rant about Pierre Poilievre, claiming he's never had a real job.
Pierre Poilievre has never had a real job. He doesn't understand the hustle, the sacrifice of what it takes to work really hard and start or grow a small business. Pierre actually qualified for a full pension at the age of 31. He can't even imagine the struggles small business owners face trying to balance their books, pay their employees, and make ends meet. The fact is, Pierre does not care about small businesses, not about entrepreneurs, and certainly not about the future of Canada's middle class. But our government does, and we've had their backs for small businesses from the beginning.
So she talks about sacrifice. a small business, growing a small business. Let's just look at her history here. We've got Richie Valdez worked in the financial sector after graduation from 2003 onwards. She spent more than 15 years as a corporate banker for BMO. Sounds like a pretty small business. The Bank of Montreal. I think that's one of those small businesses, right, guys? She's such a hypocrite. So she makes a ton of money being a financial, a corporate banker for BMO. Then she goes on to create her own business making cakes. She does that for a couple years. She sells that business. That's her story. It's cool. She had her own business making cakes, but it's like, let's get real here. You did that after you're stinking rich. So her rant here, not exactly standing on strong legs. The entire Liberal platform is now to say crap about Pierre Poilievre. That really seems to be the truth. They're just trying to crap on his character now. There's character attacks from all different levels now. There's really sad. They've got nothing left. Is that their really high, expensive consultant's plan? Just attack his character? The other one was a drama teacher removed in the middle of a semester. Pierre has many years of government experience, somewhat helpful for a prime minister. Yeah, why exactly did Trudeau leave mid-year where he was a teacher? Does anyone know? No? Does no one know? Next up, we got some updates here. So basically the Bloc are forcing Trudeau to give up that pension upgrade to the people of Quebec. They did a non-confidence vote. Bloc is still supporting Trudeau, but not for long. What we're about to see here is the non-confidence vote, the second one that Pierre Poilievre put in trying to get rid of the government. I'm sure you can guess where this went.
I declare the motion defeated.
The government survived another non-confidence vote today, the second to be brought forward by Conservatives this fall. And it failed along the same lines as their first attempt last week, with the NDP and the Bloc Québécois both voting with the Liberal government. But the Bloc has made it clear if two of their party's private members' bills do not become law by October 29, the Liberals will lose BQ support. Now, one of those bills from the Bloc proposes a 10% top-up to old age security payments for seniors between the ages of 65 and 74.
So this is their major thing they're fighting for. They want to get that age reduced. He wants to bring that number down, I think 64, 65, so they have a higher pension at an earlier age. But that's going to cost Canadians across Canada about $3 billion per year, $3.5 billion, just to boost the pensions of people in Quebec.
That bill, C-319, was debated in the House of Commons today. The Parliamentary Budget Officer estimates the top-up could cost $16 billion over 5 years. But Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet says money can be redirected from elsewhere, including funds earmarked for oil and gas.
Next up, we got some updates here from the BC election campaign that's going on here. This is posted by David Eby. He says the choice in this election is between someone captivated by internet conspiracy theories and the BC NDP team who wants to make life better for you. Yeah, right. You've had 7 years, David Eby. You've run this place into the ground.
So if you're talking about eliminating nitrogen-based fertilizer or even reducing it, you're talking about a significant food shortage. 345 million people in the world today are facing a severe food insecurity. You start reducing the food supply, you're talking about hundreds of millions of people, if not even into billions of people, that are actually going to starve. And in good conscience, I can't stand up and support those kinds of policies. For some reason, this narrative around climate, it wants to reduce this. And I can only put it to the fact that somehow they think that we need to reduce the world population. It's sort of an anti-human agenda. And I just, like I say, in good conscience, I cannot stand up and support that.
It's almost like they tried to do that with some world event that happened in 2020. On the note about fertilizer, he's 100% right. Fertilizer is what made the growth of humanity boom. It's what allows us to fertilize our crops and get way more yield out of it. Before then, we were growing stuff, but having to use natural fertilizers until scientists were able to break that apart and create it in much more abundant amounts, allowed humanity to absolutely thrive. So to reduce that is absolute stupidity.
Quite frankly, I think if people around British Columbia and Canada knew this was what the agenda was, they wouldn't be supporting it either. And everybody I talk to, they have the same sort of response. They go like, oh my God, how could we as a country, how could we as a province want to actually do these things?
Wow, I am so happy to hear you talking like this because so few politicians seem aware. We have had people talking about depopulation out loud, including Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates. And you kind of think that's got to be some kind of joke. But when you start seeing that all these food processing plants across the world have been somehow starting on fire, and then you see some of the world events that we faced this last 3 years, and the global push with the nitrogen and carbon and reducing your animals, you begin wondering, with the UN Agenda 2030, I'm not certain if you know about that, but it does seem to lead to a concerted effort that's not very people positive,
It's anti-civilization.
It is anti-civilization. That's basically what the WF wants. So you got David Eby here talking about this like it's conspiracy theory. Like, get real, man. Look what happened in 2020. Next up, we got another one here. So it says the NDP seems desperate. But what we've got here is a conservative sign in BC. And the NDP are so desperate that look what they did here. They go and put an NDP logo over top of the conservative sign. This is pathetic. Somebody chose to do this from the NDP. This wasn't some random person who printed that out at home. They put that over top of their sign. Like, how embarrassing is this? The reason why, you look in the polling numbers, they're losing now to the BC Conservatives. So we got data here just from a couple days ago. BC Conservatives 46%, NDP 44%. And if we take a look at this here, you can see where the campaign begins here. I mean, the Conservatives are starting to push ahead here. We need to get this divide bigger. Next up, we've got Garnet Genuous here pointing out that the Trudeau government is spending our tax dollars in American universities for climate change research.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the officials for being here. Looking through some of these grants, it's evident to me that there's quite a substantial number of entries for funding to American universities. And nobody could be confused based on the name. These are institutions like Cornell, Colorado State University, one in California receiving multiple grants, Clarkson, a private university in Potsdam. Why are we funding American universities to do climate change research?
We have to come back to you with, I can send you a document on this if you want a response. I don't have it in front of me.
Of course he doesn't know. This is so liberal right here.
But okay. Yeah, I thought that's precisely why you were here, actually, was to provide an answer to the questions we had about grants and contributions in Environment Canada. This isn't just one niche grant we found. There are would appear to be at least a dozen entries to multiple different American universities. So it seems that as a matter of policy, you fund, or at least you don't exclude from funding, foreign academic institutions in a developed country that could be funding their own university research. And we obviously have world-class institutions here in Canada that could be doing this research.
Yeah, checkmate, man. Exactly. Why wouldn't you spend that money here? But it's because the Liberals want data. So they'll spend a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of research. And if they get one or two pieces of data that kind of leans towards what they want, they can twist the numbers or whatever, or pay off the researchers to get the data they want. Then they can use that to lean on for jacking up the carbon tax and making our lives more miserable. It's very predictable what they're doing. I would love, just for one day, to be able to listen to these lying, stealing, cheating, traitorous Liberals give an honest, direct answer. Sadly, I don't know that I'll ever get that in my lifetime. Next up, we got Minister of Health Mark Holland gaslighting Canadians. He claims his instincts tell him Canadians want current government to stay in place. That's right. Just ride it out. The full term. That's what we need, right?
I would say on an overall basis, my instinct is that Canadians want this parliament to continue to function. They elected parties for what they perceive to be a 4-year period, and they're not interested in us finding divisions. They're interested in us finding common ground. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah,
all he wants is that big paycheck every day. That's what he wants. That's why they want to stay in power. They're all getting paid a lot of money. They're just going to ride it out. They don't care about us. They never did. It was always about making them lots of money. Next up, we got Senator Don Plett. I thought he was retired. I guess not. He's still cranking here in the Senate. He brings up Statistics Canada reports that less than half of Canadians feel satisfied with their lives.
Government leader, after 9 long years of this NDP Liberal government, the ongoing cost of living crisis has robbed Canadians of affordable housing and groceries. It's taken something else as well, their hope. Statistics Canada reports that less than half of Canadians feel highly satisfied with their lives, down 5% since 2021. Hopefulness about the future also fell a similar amount. Financial struggles were closely tied to the decline. Statistics Canada also said in 2024, Canadians of all age groups were feeling less hopeful about the future than they were in 2021. Leader, life has been hard under this NDP Liberal regime, and change is needed. Hope is needed. Common sense is needed. Why will your government not recognize this and call a carbon tax election?
Yeah.
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question. And indeed, the point that you made, though not your question, frankly, is an important and serious one, and one that should preoccupy all of us, not only here in Canada, but indeed throughout the world. Because regrettably, the phenomenon to which you, Senator Plett, alluded, that is young people's diminished faith in the future, is a phenomenon that we see worldwide. There are no doubt many reasons for this. Tough times in the world generally, political movements and rhetoric that feed more on fear than on hope. But it is certainly preoccupying and disturbing for those of us, for all of us, whether we have children and grandchildren, as many of us do, to see that happening. So thank you for raising this important question.
Senator Plett.
This is a complete word salad. No answer.
We live in the richest country in the world, Leader. Don't compare us with other countries. Leader, like you say, axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime is just a slogan. It's more than a slogan. These words are giving much needed hope to Canadians. Do you realize that when you dismiss these words, you're also dismissing Canadians and their hope for the future?
Senator Gold.
That's well said. That's exactly what it is. It's hope. We all need hope here because things are so bad in this country right now.
I don't believe, that's certainly not my intent. But look, slogans, well tested though they are, well rehearsed though they are, well communicated though they clearly are from the other place to this place, may be politically advantageous, and I know that is your highest priority. But it is no substitute for sound policy and prudent application of sound political and economic principles.
Oh, wow. Yeah. This guy is so corrupted and paid off. What just an absolute bonehead. Mark Gold needs to be kicked out of there. Jumping back to the House of Commons here, we've got Conservative Michael Chong, who absolutely obliterates Chrystia Freeland, brings up her past. This is good.
Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Canada has become the first central bank to cut rates because Canada has become the first leading economy to go through an economic contraction. Again, the Financial Times, for which the finance minister once worked, it said, quote, Canada's per capita gross domestic product has been shrinking 0.4% a year since 2020, the worst rate for any developed economy in the top 50. Does the government agree that Canada's per capita GDP is shrinking at the worst rate of any of the top 50 economies?
Yeah! That was absolutely savage. He's basically pointing out how bad the economy is and then pointed out that she was a reporter at that. That's probably one of the best subtle burns I've ever seen in here.
Mr. Speaker, our government knows that what matters to Canadians is inflation. And that is why it is so important that inflation was 2% in August and that it has been within the Bank of Canada's target range all of this year. And it is because of that progress that interest rates in Canada have come down 3 times. That is real relief to homeowners. That is real relief to businesses. That is real relief to anyone who wants to buy a home. But all the Conservatives know how to do is talk Canada down. That's right.
Oh, she just had a Freudian slip there. All the Canadians know how to do is talk Canada down. Is that what you're saying, Freeland? The gig's up, Freeland. Get out of here. Next up, we've got this here. It shows how food is being locked up in Canada. Being locked. There's too many people stealing food. This is crazy. So looking through the comments here, people are debating whether these flavors of Spam or whatever are available. Some people say this is in America. Some people say this is too cheap. So I'm not exactly sure where this is. I can't confirm for sure this is in Canada, but wherever this is happening, it's pretty crazy to see food locked up behind these glass doors. Jumping over to my group, let's see what memes we've got today. Canada, 3rd largest oil reserves. Canadians should be Saudi rich. Probably. I mean, we've got minerals, we've got lumber, we've got everything. It's just we've got corrupt government. Trudeau pledges $200 million to push that word and that word in Africa. I'm sure he does. I'm sure there's no briefcases just being tucked away in the back office there for when he's done. Definitely not corrupt governments over there. Latest Main Street poll have modeled Liberals with 0 seats in Ontario. There's no context in which someone doesn't have the responsibility for things they've done in the past. You don't improve the world by accusing someone who disagrees with you of being a threat. That's how you control the world. Major polling aggregator predicts Singh will lose his own riding. This is what I was pointing out before. It was neck and neck. It's still Conservatives a couple points up on Jagmeet Singh. I understand the struggle is real. I too have faced same struggles being a black man myself a few times. Why do we still make politicians take oaths instead of making them sign legally binding contracts? Yeah, that's a good idea. How I sleep at night knowing my opinion offended every Liberal on the internet today. Salary, $299,900. She smiles with her big salary while 2 million people line up at food banks and live in tents. London, Ontario, world's largest cricket production facilities officially complete. Yuck. You would think at some point the news would slow down, but it's not. Every single day there's just something else, whether it's the money being sent over to do research in American universities, not Canadian universities, let alone for climate change research, things they want to use against us. We've got what looks like to be a new strategy from the Liberals, which is just to insult Pierre Poilievre. Somehow I think that strategy is going to backfire and their numbers are going to continue to fall.